This is John McClung Jr. I'd like to invite you to join me every Monday, 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, for Breaking Biblical Bread, where we take a word or passage of Scripture and encourage you, impact your life, and add value to your day. You don't want to miss it. Welcome to another amazing Monday with Breaking Biblical Bread. I'm your host, John McClung Jr., also known as the Chaplain. And we do this every Monday, 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time for my people on the West Coast. And I'm excited. Man, listen, I don't even know if you can tell, I got my green on St. Patrick's Day. But anyway, we ain't worried about that. But we come on every Monday, Lord willing, to share a word, a passage of Scripture, break it down where it impacts your life, add value, or even make some changes so that we can apply the information to you. And we're looking forward today to do something because I know that this is Women's Month, whatever y'all want to call it, empowerment, the women's, this is their month. So something I don't or haven't done in a while is provide some information or a message for the women. And so today I want to do that since this is the month, and I want to encourage, give some insight and some wisdom, maybe even share something that you didn't know about as far as the story that impacted the Old Testament as far as the biblical, because of course I am reading the Bible through this year, and man, there's some stories that are so on point with what is going on in life today, especially when we talk about women making an impact on the world. And so tonight, or not tonight, today, I want to share this. Well, it might be nighttime somewhere. I want to share this information. Let me know where you're coming in from a standpoint of those who will be coming in on Breaking Biblical Bread. And again, we do this at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time for my people on the West Coast. All right, so let me dive in. I'm going to share some information out of Numbers 27, verses 1 through 11, based on some women that made history during that time. And as we know, women are making history as we speak in this time. And so this is nothing new, right? This is nothing new for women doing something for the first time, making things change in the world, whether it's business, whether it's personal, whether it's new things. But this, I think, will be an opportunity for me to share some idea. I'm pretty sure for women to come together in whatever capacity and allow the Lord to use them in a way that makes an impact on the world. All right, so I'm going to just bring you into this story at the time in which the people in Israel that had been separated or numbered, and they were in the process of receiving an inheritance. And in one of the families, there was a man that didn't have any sons. He only had daughters. And at that time, women were not the ones necessarily to receive the inheritance of the family. It was always more or less given to the sons as they tiered down from the oldest to the youngest. And the daughters were more or less ones that would watch, or they would have to benefit from whomever they were married to. And this situation, Zelophehad had no daughters, and they were in the process as they were distributing inheritance. These daughters didn't think it was right for them not to be able to receive their inheritance, just based on the mere fact that they were not sons. And so they did something that was out of the ordinary. And I want to share this story with you because I know that women today are doing things out of the ordinary. They are excelling in ways and making things happen. And they're not doing it not only individually, but they're doing it collectively as well. And it's being seen all over the country, all over the world. So let me read this. Some Numbers 27 and 1 through 11. And I want to read, the daughters of Zelophehad approached the entrance to the tent of meeting and stood before Moses. Now, Moses was the one that was distributing the inheritance, and Eleazar the priest, the leaders, and the whole assembly, and said, our father died in the wilderness. Why should our father's name disappear from his clan because he had no son? Give us property among our father's relatives. Now, they walked into a meeting that women don't normally go into. And to be able to be bold enough to go into this circle of leadership and speak their case said a lot about these women. So it's important to know that to acknowledge the historical and cultural context that women played in Israel, and they were limited. They were limited with rights. They were limited with inheritance because that was more or less reserved for men. So they stepped into an arena that, like we know today, we had the Good Old Boy Network during the course of the 60s, 70s, and still today, and other ceilings that women have had to face, but they've stepped into it and done it in a bold way. So these next 4 things I just want to share, I believe, will encompass what is going on in the lives of women today. And I pray that it continues to push you forward, because without you, without the soil that you are, we wouldn't be here as men and women today. All right. So number 1, and again, the subject matter is boldness to a blessing, the power of women united. Number 1, the number 1 point: women have a voice worth hearing. Let me say that again. Women have a voice worth hearing. And I'm going to go back to verse 1 and 2. Then came the daughters of Zelophehad, and they stood before Moses. They were bold enough to come into the circle, into this room, or this conference, if we could call it, where Moses was and the priests were giving out the inheritance, and before Eleazar the priest, and before the princes and all the congregation. How often do we find women going into a situation to have their voice heard? Because there was a time where women couldn't even vote. They couldn't they were not in position to stand out, and yet over the course of time they have evolved into a force where women have a voice worth hearing. Now, these women stepped into a space where women rarely were seen or heard. And how often do we know right now that women are stepping into a place where it's very rare for them to be able to go into? And they were able to approach not only Moses, but the priest, the princes, and the assembly, the congregation. There was a lot of individuals in this room that were seeing this happen. And this is something that is really happening today, because the courage of women, they're going into workspaces, they're going, they're leading families, church, and even society and communities. So even though this is happening now, back in the biblical days, there was some groundbreaking women that needed to have their voices heard. And there are groundbreaking women right now who are positioning themselves to hear and have their voices heard. So, as for me in this message, I want to encourage women to speak up and share your perspectives, knowing that your voices can bring out transformation. Don't be fearful of your position, nor do you be fearful of not of your voice, because your voice is significant. Matter of fact, not only is it significant, your voice is the medicine, as I would say, to someone's headache. So your voice needs to be heard. So, number one, women have a voice worth hearing. Number two, women can challenge injustice. Now, in verse 3 and 4, our father died in the wilderness. Why should the name of our father be done away from among his family? Because he hath no son. Give unto us, therefore, a possession among the brethren of our father. Now, they believed, and their passion was the fact that these five, because it was five daughters, these five women believed that their father's name would still live on through them. Not only that, that what would have been coming to their son, the sons, if he had them, should still come to them because they are an extension of who he is, even though he had died in the wilderness in those 40 years. But they were alive and well to handle the possession that should have come to the family. These women recognized an unfair system and took action. Now, man, you're talking about groundbreaking to be able to go into this assembly and say, we want you to change this law you would normally do, which is give the inheritance and possessions to the sons. We want you to change it and allow us to get it as women, regardless of what that law stands for. That was bold. That was courage. And they believed that was not fair, or it was not just. And today we are finding where many women are breaking through scenarios that are not providing justice to whom they are, and they're making a difference. They stood up for themselves. They didn't wait. Listen, they didn't wait for somebody to feel good for them or try to take them by the hand or advocate for them. They took it upon themselves to step in that room and speak to what they believed belonged to them. Not only that, their boldness led to a change in the law. That justice for future women or generations of women, they would be able to receive the possession or inheritance that was coming to the family if there were no men involved, no sons. And you can best believe that women today are called to identify the challenges and injustices that are going on, whether in their own personal lives, whether it's in the community, or the world at large in itself. We see a lot of female leadership, a lot of women in leadership, and we see them making a difference. We see them allowing their voices to be heard in ways that are challenging, and we even see that right now in governmental situations. And so to be able to actually understand that you have a voice to change some things makes it necessary to do so. So women, number two, can challenge injustice. And I know that's personal, that's business, that's professional. And again, in the scenario, whatever scenario you're in, don't hide your voice. Especially if there's wrongdoing going on or things that are not fair, speak to it. You have the power to do so. Use your voice to make a change. Number two. Number three, women can lead with courage. Numbers 27, 5 through 7. And Moses brought their cause before the Lord. Let me stop there. When you step forward and use your voice to speak to the things that should not be happening, You will begin to get advocacies that would not probably normally happen. Now, this was a first for Moses, I'm sure, to bring a cause for women to the Lord. And Moses brought their cause before the Lord, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, let me stop there. When it's right, it makes no difference if who it is. It makes no difference if it's a woman or a man. If it's right and is brought before the Lord will speak to it. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, the daughters of Zelophehad speak right. Listen to that. The Lord saying to all of you is right. Women, when you're speaking the right thing, the Lord will back you up. When you're acting the right way, the Lord, if you're spiritual, will back you up. Matter of fact, he will allow others to bring it in your stead so that it is done right or it is treated right. The daughters of Zelophehad speak right. Thou shalt surely give them a possession of an inheritance among their father's brethren. Now, when you talk about be strong and of good courage, women, when you have the Lord on your side, you can step into any scenario if you're right and you're just, and it will work in your favor. See, these ladies, these daughters, demonstrated leadership by taking initiative and presenting their case with clarity and conviction. When you work together with clarity and conviction, nothing's impossible, especially if the Lord is involved. You can demonstrate leadership, you can demonstrate courage, you can demonstrate strength individually and collectively, but collectively, there is a lot of things that you can do. And there's a lot of things that you are doing. We see empowerment conferences. We see women conferences all over the place. Matter of fact, they do it way more than the men do it. And they be packed because women can lead with courage. Now, this particular story shows that leadership isn't about gender. It ain't about male or female, but it's about courage. It's about wisdom. And it's about the willingness to act, to step forward in faith, believing that what you are seeking is right. And you have the courage to go after it. These women stepped in a leadership role that was for the first time, but they were bold enough and trusting enough amongst each other, even though they were sisters, that God would equip them to lead with strength and grace. Because they had to understand that going into this particular environment could have been totally different. And I'm sure that it caught everybody, especially Moses and the priests and the princes and the congregation, by surprise, because it's never happened before. Never happened before. And how often have women gone into a place and changed something that has never happened before? And I always say, if you're having a difficult time, especially women, if you're having a difficult time trying to figure out your purpose and all of these things, find a story within the Bible that you can apply to your life. And this one can apply to all women because this is a first. And there are many women that are dealing with a first in their life. And they need to know that they can lead with courage. Number 3, with strength and grace. So ladies, number 3, know that you can lead with courage, no matter what it is you're dealing with, no matter what scenario you're going into. And know that When it's done with justice and equity and confidence, the Lord got you. Number 4, women can leave a legacy. Verses 8 through 11. And thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel, saying, listen to this. If a man die and have no son, then ye shall cause his inheritance to pass unto his daughter. Now that truly was a first. There had never been any scenario up until this point in the Bible where women were involved in receiving an inheritance, at least not that I know of, or possessions for that fact. They may have had some, but not to this level where Moses was distributing the wealth amongst the people. Women can leave a legacy. See, these daughters' action preserved their father's name and secured their family's future. Now, I know right now there are so many women that are holding it down in the household. They have educated themselves. They are in leadership roles. They are handling, the home by themselves, as well as in relationships. They're the breadwinner. It's a lot of things that are happening. And these ladies understood the legacy that was involved, and they took the steps to keep it, to make sure that they had that legacy. Because amongst all the other brethren, they were getting their inheritance and possessions to be able to hand down to their sons, and the sons were receiving them if the fathers were not there or had passed on. So they changed the whole scope of this situation. They made it so that other daughters could come into that scenario and receive their inheritance or possessions. So they not only were groundbreaking, but they did something that is happening today. There are a lot of families where men and where mothers and fathers, they didn't have any sons. They had only daughters, and the daughters are taking over the businesses or receiving an inheritance. That's happening. And it started in this story because women can leave a legacy. This story reminds, it can remind you of women that, to know that women have the power to shape the future, not only for themselves, but their families and their communities. And that's what's going on. There are a lot of women who have taken hold of their gifts and talents and abilities and have taken it to levels that leave legacies. Man, you go into a business, it's predominantly women making it happen. So I challenge every woman to think about the legacy that you want to leave and take the steps to do it. Be bold. Be bold enough and have courage and strength to take on the challenge of injustice and courage and leave a legacy, and know that your voice is worth hearing. Now, I want to leave you something I want to leave you with a couple of things as women, because I know there's another side of this. It's a competitive world out there with the women. I know y'all be going through some stuff amongst each other and outside of each other. So I want to share maybe 4 things with you. Now, for me, the chaplain, I didn't have any sisters. My parents had 3 sons. But the greatest example of a woman I've ever seen before my mom passing was my mom. Just the epitome of a virtuous woman. And how to be treated as well. And the boldness and courage and strength that a woman has when she is anchored in her faith and belief. And when she loves, when she shows how much she loved the Lord, it showed us how far it would take her. to the point where she was, ready to go. She left an amazing legacy in her sons, as well as in all of the daughters that wanted to be the real daughters. But she had plenty of them across the country that stood in. So, number one, ladies, know your worth. These daughters knew that they were worthy of their inheritance. They wasn't worried about what anybody else thought. They went in there together, all five of the sisters, to fight for what they believed they were worthy of. You certainly were created in God's image, and you have inherent worth and dignity that is embedded in you. You have a class that no other thing on earth has. You have a worth because the Lord designed you in such a way that it is the most attractive thing on earth. Know your worth. Number two, stand together. See, these five daughters went into this room as one together and changed the whole law to the point where even the Lord said it was the right thing. Think about that. What they said is right. So when you come together and stand together, you can make any bold request. And with the unity of women, there's strength. So everything that you go toward as a group or support, you can accomplish. See, now, women, you are stronger when you support each other and uplift one another. And this is in collaboration and sisterhood. There is in that thing when you come together, you cannot accomplish, as I've said. So, stand together. You can do more together than you can apart. Number three, trust God's justice. And this is all encompassed in this passage. These sisters, and I'm going to say these women, trusted that God would honor their request. When you have moments where you're up against something that you don't know whether or not you can overcome or break through, trust that God hears you. Because, see, they believed in God's fairness and they believed in God's provision. He was fair in the justice by saying they were right. And he honored them with provision by allowing them to receive their possessions and their inheritance. And whatever it is that you seek, ladies, that is within the will and purpose that God has for your life, and you have them in your life, he will honor you. Now, you might say, well, it hasn't happened yet. Well, he doesn't have to do it in your time, but he does watch what you do in that time. You can best believe that he had watched these young women over the course of time in their life based on their father, and already knew that they were going to do some groundbreaking things as sisters. And I know that as sisters, when you come together, you can do some groundbreaking things when the Lord is involved. So regardless of the struggles that you go through or the issues and challenges, understand, trust God during all of that. Make sure you have some accountability sisters or individuals that you know can speak and pour into your life around you. Together, you can accomplish some amazing things. You can fight for whatever cause you have in your life. So trust God's justice. And then lastly, Be a change maker, ladies, women. Do something so great that history cannot erase it. See, they didn't just seek justice for themselves. See, these women didn't go in there just for the five of them. They knew that there were other women within this amazing group called Israel that were going through the same thing. So they changed this particular system that they were dealing with for future generations, even till today. The very move and boldness that they had in that biblical time affected every generation to come when it came to women receiving what was due to them. And it may have happened in different ways, but you can best believe right now, women are doing things that would probably have never been thought of over a particular period of time. They've broken through. Women have power. Ladies, you have power to create lasting change. So I encourage you, as you're becoming a change maker, to use your gifts, your skills, your talents, abilities, and your experiences, your passions, your ministries, your visions and dreams to make a difference. Now, I know that there are a lot of women who are struggling to make a difference in their life, to break through, to even find individual or other women to be a part of. Because again, y'all know y'all can be something sometimes. And even in the home, women are making changes, or they're doing things to help us as men become better, to reach some of the heights that we may not have been able to reach because of the push that they give us. You see, this story has a lot of power to it because it can remind you of being bold, the boldness that's in you, the faith that you have, and leadership. You can't be fearful to be bold, ladies. You can't lack faith in the things that you go after, and you can't be afraid of leadership because you've been doing it, especially if you're a mother, you've been doing it. If you're a wife, you've been doing it. Whatever capacity of work you've done, you've been doing it. And it's important for you to keep that mindset and teach us that your voice matters in your actions, which can bring great justice to scenarios that you are involved in and leave a lasting legacy for your life and your family. Embrace your God-given identity and step into, ladies, women, the fullness of your calling. Find out what it is and don't cheat yourself. Don't cheat the world of who you are and what you're able to bring. So I pray that you take in courage, wisdom, and strength to rise and make a difference. Wherever you are, I encourage you to support one another, pray for one another, and mentor one another, as well as collaborate with one another. And you truly will go from a boldness to a blessing. This is John McClung Jr., also known as a chaplain, and this is Breaking Biblical Bread, where we do this every Monday, Lord willing. 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time for my people on the West Coast. And I know that, again, this is the month for the women. So I wanted to at least do one message to you to let you know that you have a voice worth hearing. You can speak to injustice and challenge it. You can lead with courage, and you can leave a legacy. And above all things, be willing to work together, because you could do more together, ladies, women. You can know your worth. Your worth can be talked about. It can be built up. You can stand together and do more than individually. You can break through the injustices that go on with women, and you can be a change maker for the world, as well as your community, your environment. So I pray that women, that whomever gets a chance to hear it, that you tag and share this message with every female and woman you know who might be struggling because they don't know that they can break through and be bold, be of good strength and of good courage, and that there's power when you are united. I look forward to, Lord willing, being with you next week with Breaking Biblical Bread. And I know that there will be challenging times in these days. They're already here. And that you're going to need to come together, because you're making an impact. Ladies, you are doing some things, and you are in places that at one time you were not capable of being. So I honor the work that has been done. You know, the people that you have become as far as women, the places that you changed and are still changing, the impact that you are making in every industry. And then to say, there's even more for you to do than that you can do. You got to appreciate the fact that you encourage, again, the men in your lives, and you deal with us in so many different ways, the best and the worst, and yet you still are standing. Take care until the next time, and know that there is power and boldness when women are united. This is John McClung Jr. I'd like to invite you to join me every Monday, 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, for Breaking Biblical Bread, where we take a word or a passage of scripture and encourage you, impact your life, and add value to your day. You don't want to miss it.